This is going to be the first in a series of tutorials for helping you complete SimNet Word Chapter 4 Guided Project 4-2. Like any project in SimNet, it starts by downloading start files, and in this case there's a start file, of course, which is the Word file, but there's also something called resources, and of course optionally you can download the solution in PDF format, or you can use the file download wizard one way or another. Let me click that. It downloaded the start file. The next click downloads the resource bundle, and the next click downloads the solution file. So you should have three files. Let me look at my downloads. You should have the start file. You should have a picture, which is the resource. It's called heart rate, blah, blah, blah. If your extensions are visible, it's a PNG, which is a graphic format, and there's the solution. So I have already opened in Word the start file. I'm working on Mac, but usually on Windows you will see a yellow strip that says enable editing or something like that, and of course you click to enable editing, and let's start going through the requirements. In this case, what I will do, just to make sure, I'm working on Mac, but I will make the requirements on Windows. So whenever there's a discrepancy or a difference between Mac and Windows, it'll be very, it'll make me notice. Let me even enlarge the text so it's easier to write. I believe that in this assignment, other than, one or two keyboard shortcuts, like, command instead of control, it's exactly the same on Mac and Windows. Open the start file, document opens in protected view, enable editing, we already talked about that. The file will be renamed automatically, including your name. Let's make sure of that. It does. Next. Select the title of the document and insert word art. Now, word art is like, fancy graphic art. Now, if we select something before we insert, it turns whatever we select into word art, not a blank one. So what they want us to select is the title of the document and click the word art button. So here's the title of the document. And under insert, we got word art, to be differentiated from smart art, which we will do later too. So I'm clicking word art, and they also tell us which one to do. They want the third option in the first row, which is that, red one with, whatever. So let's do that. Word art 1, 2, 3, this one. And it turns it into a big fancy, it's still words, but it's kind of, artistic. Save. Click the third option in the first row, and we just did. Change the shape width to 6.5 inches because I think you can see that it's just a little too narrow. So in the shape format tab, whenever you select, if nothing selected, I don't see a shape format. But when I select it, I see its tab. Shape format all the way to the right. They want the width to be 6.5. Notice that they're not saying anything about the height. I'm just using, the steps, but you can type it too. And save. The next thing they want me to do is to change its position. In other words, where it is positioned compared to the rest of the page. Click the position button, which is in the shape format tab, arrange group, and select more layout options. So what I will find is the button shape format, and there should be a button called position right here, and under more layout options a dialog appears. It's pretty much the same dialog on Mac and Windows. What do they want us to do in that dialog? Change the alignment in the horizontal area to centered relative to margin. Now let's understand what they're saying. They want this smart art to be centered relative to the margins of the document. So in the horizontal, we're going to go alignment, center, relative to margin. But we don't click OK yet. So this we did. And also change the alignment, horizontal, center, relative to margin. Change the absolute position, which is the position of the whole box, in the vertical area to 0.2 below page. They want it very close to the top of the page, regardless of the margins. So they want to push it up. So in the vertical area, we want to be absolute position. What did they say? 0.2 below page. Absolute 0.2 below page. And I believe then we click OK, and you'll see where it put it. Once I click OK, you will see that it's centered it within the margins. Here are the margins. So it's a little, to the left, a little to the right, but nicely centered in the margins. And it's 0.2 inches from the top of the page, even though the margins of the page start around here. So we're using the very top of the page. Save. Click the Text Effects button, which is in the Shape Format Word Art Styles group. We're going to select the group called Reflection, and in Reflection, we're going to select the first option in the first row, which is called Tight Reflection. So let's see what that is all about. First of all, there's a Text Effects group in the Shape Format tab. So, by the way, sometimes if your width of your screen is narrower than mine, instead of saying Shape Format, it'll just say Format, but it's still Shape Format. And there's right here Text Effects. This is the Text Effects, the one that looks like a little neon. This is like a gallery of effects, but this is really Text Effects. So the one that looks like neon. And within it, there's a group called Reflection. And within Reflection, the very first one is called Tight Reflection. Okay? Let's see if I actually selected the right one. Tight Reflection Touching. That's the right one. Good. Done. At this point, something I did notice is that when you look at the solution file, the reflection looks like it's gray, but on my reflection, the reflection looks red. I checked it, and it does not deduct points for that. I don't know why theirs is a different color, but it has nothing to do with missing a requirement. Back to the requirements. Since the next requirement is number 4, which has like J steps, let me stop this part of the tutorial, and I will see you in part 2, where we will convert text into a table.